Chapter number 12. Teaching. When Jamie Lynn was just 2, I made the transition from a job I liked, running the daycare, to a career I loved. My desire for that career began many years ago, when it was time for me to go to high school. My parents insisted that I transfer from the local school system and attend a private Catholic girls' boarding school, St. Mary of the Pines, in Magnolia, Louisiana, about 20 minutes away from our farm. I didn't want to leave my school friends, and I put up quite a fuss, but it was no use. We weren't even Catholic, but that argument, like all the others, held no water with Daddy and Mama. My parents valued learning, and they felt I would receive a better education there, and that was that. They put their collective foot down. At first, I felt like a complete outsider at the school. I attended it as a day student among mostly boarding school girls, so that didn't help. St. Mary's was set in a thick forest just up the hill from the Tangipahoa River, and classes were held in dignified old buildings. The rarefied atmosphere there threw me for a loop, and at first I was a bit of a loner, concentrating on my studies and hanging out with other girls who also didn't fit in with the popular crowd. But there was one big benefit at St. Mary of the Pines. Sister Patrick, the English teacher I absolutely adored. In her classes, my love for books was deepened, as was my love for learning. I dreamt of becoming an English teacher, like Sister Patrick, someday, or maybe even a college professor. A seed was planted in those English classes, as young ladies in crisp school uniforms discussed Austen and Shakespeare and Hawthorne. Many years later, the school closed down and became a treat center for retired nuns. I am proud to be an alumna for so many reasons, including the fact that St. Mary of the Pines Retreat Center provided refuge for evacuees from Hurricane Katrina, including about 15 sisters. Dream come true. In 1993, the seed sown in Sister Patrick's classes grew into a dream come true. I became a teacher myself. Sister Creek Elementary hired me as their second grade teacher, a post I would hold for 7 years. I had been running my daycare for about 10 years at that point, and it was the best business in the world for me to do. We had 15 employees, and I was friends with all of them. At business school, they may tell you this is not the way to run a tight ship, but that what I discovered was that the more personal touch I gave to my employees, the more loyal they were to me. I used to have very relaxed policy when it came to using sick time or personal time. If you can't come in, you don't even have to call me, I would tell them. Just find your own replacement. All of my employees had children, and goodness knows, anything can happen with little ones around. I also had young children, so I could relate. They really seemed to appreciate my empathy for their situations, and no one ever abused my policy, not even once. Even though I thoroughly enjoyed my daycare business, in my heart I needed something more to satisfy my mind and fulfill my spirit. I wanted to teach. My preschool and kindergarten at the daycare used a Becca, a rigorous Christian-based curriculum used by top private schools and by many homeschoolers. As a result, those little ones were well prepared to enter first grade as emerging readers, and most of them achieved just that. That was fulfilling to me, of course, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do with my teaching background. Some people were put on this earth to be humanitarians, actors, writers, nurses, whatever it is that fits their soul and meets that need within to do what they were called to do. Besides motherhood, my primary vocation teaching met that need for me. I absolutely loved working with children. First of all, which is key, I loved all types of kids, the smart, sweet children, and even the challenging ones who made most teachers want to pull their hair out. Sometimes the ones who made most teachers want to pull their hair out. Sometimes the principal would purposely put students in my class who were considered a handful. I took this to be a compliment of my teaching skills, or maybe it was simply a matter of him of leading a hard case or two to a teacher with less seniority. It didn't matter. I loved them all as they came to me. If you are not an organized person, you will be forced to become one when you become a teacher. I was always fairly organized, but with up to 30 children to teach and multiply subjects to cover, I had to step it up. A core element of teaching is record keeping, not just of not only the child's work and grades, but of the various state requirements. All of this regulation helped me improve my order lines quite a bit. I know I'm a bit of a neat freak, but to this day I love to set things in order. Another gift of my teaching career was and is undoubtedly Joy, one of my dearest friends, and a woman who lives up to her name every day. Joy and I met just before I started teaching, in the hallway outside our classrooms. She was jealous of my room, she told me, because it was bigger and had a sink and a small project area for my students. What a difference the small things make in the classroom. We were instant kindred spirits. Joy has a smile as wide as the Mississippi River, and her sweet voice could melt the hottest heart. Her passionate spirituality and zest for life spill over into mine, and I'm so grateful for her friendship. Joy's daughter, Leah, and Jamie Lynn are the same age, and they grew up together, becoming as close as their mothers are to each other. Joy and I have known each other for about 15 years now, but it seems as if we always known each other. Some people think we are sisters because we favor each other physically, but more than that, we are alike in our mannerisms, sayings, and gestures. We even finish each other's sentences. Joey and I love it when someone asks if we are sisters because then we can have a little fun with that poor person. Do you think who do you think is older? We'll ask, watching as the victim scrambles for a diplomatic answer. Most are too polite to call it as they see it, but I am older by a long shot. I miss those days teaching with Joy right across the hall. We used to love decorating our classrooms with seasonal motifs, leaves, snowflakes, bunnies, and chicks. After hours and just bagging away about every topic under the sun, telling stories from seemingly endless well. Teaching was perfect for me. One of the great regrets of my life is quitting in 2000 to go to a tour with Britney. Don't get me wrong, it was the right thing to do at that time, but I miss teaching and I look back on those 7 years of teaching as being some of the most satisfying of my life thus far. What could be more satisfying, what could be more gratifying than guiding a 7-year-old student in finally cracking the code of reading, or providing warmth and nurturing for a child who struggled at home. You simply can't put a price tag on those kinds of rewards. I remember one little boy so vividly, a very shy and sweet child who was such a strong writer for his age. In this good old boy area, it wasn't really a macho thing for a boy to love English, and he seemed to need some extra encouragement to sustain his interest in book and reading. Today, that boy is an English professor, and his mother has told me more than once that I helped him discover his love for English back in the second grade. Do you know how much that means to me? It's also pleasing to see some of my students all grown up today, attending college or maybe even married themselves and pursuing their own dreams. Scary because it makes me feel old, but pleasing. But seriously, I am always happy to see my former students, yet a little bit sad too. Where was the time gone? If I sound wistful, it's because I am. When I quit teaching, my fulfilling orderly life flew out the window, and in its place was reality I never could have imagined, an existence that would be at times the very antithesis of fulfillment and order.